So welcome everybody, welcome to my session. Everybody just had dinner, or lunch I mean, and we spent the whole morning listening to talks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a game with you. Do an energizer, because this is going to be an interactive session. The law of 2 feet doesn't apply here. I'm going to ask them to lock the doors. No, just kidding. But stay around, it's going to be a lot of fun. So the game is really easy. There's a point to it, I'll explain later. Let's start by all standing up, please. There's only one rule. If I tell you to do something and I say, Simon says, you have to do it. If I tell you to do something, but I don't say, Simon says, and you do it, you lose. And then you can sit down, okay? So let's start by putting our arms up. Ooh, yeah, that's the game. So Simon says, put your arms up, put your arms to the side. Okay, put them down. Hey, everybody sit down. Stay. This was the warm-up. So for the people who just came in, did you get the rules? Yeah, okay. Okay, how shall we do this? This is the only one. You're actually the winner. So let's do it again. Arms up. Yes. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. You lose. Simon says, stick your arms out. Let's clap. Sit down. You, and I heard one clap over there. Please sit down. You lose. You have to sit down, otherwise we keep going for an hour and a half and I don't get to my talk. Simon says, stick your arms in the air. Simon says, say, hi, how do you do? This is a nice crowd. So stick your arms down. Yep, another one. Yeah, you're better than I expected. Usually it's easy to get everybody sitting down. Okay, stick your arms out. Sit down. Simon says, put your arms down. That was a tricky one, huh? Simon says, put your arms up. Simon says, put your leg up in the air. Put your leg down before you fall over. Who's sitting down? Simon says, arms to the side. Simon says, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. So the point of this game is to show you that we as human beings, we think we're really smart, and we think that we're always in control. But that's not the case, is it? Yeah, because I'm speaking, but at the same time, when I do the movements, you just copy that. Yeah, that's your brain taking a shortcut. And I think that's one of the big challenges that we have with Agile. So in my talk today, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Erik de Bos. I'll fill in some details during the talk. It's not about me, it's about the subject. Flow. I'm going to be talking about flow and especially about team effectiveness. So how many of you work with, feels like a boat. How many of you work with Scrum? Hands up in the air. Yeah, exactly. Most of you. So you will recognize that the Scrum Masters in Scrum, they are responsible for the effectiveness of the team. Yeah, and for the people who don't do Scrum, don't worry, because I think it's applicable for everything. In Kanban, you also want to have effective teams. So that's really important. But as a Scrum Master, if somebody asks you, how effective is your team? How do you answer that? That's the first exercise that we're going to be doing. I want you to take 1 minute to think about how you could measure the effectiveness of a team. Is it clear for everybody what the word effectiveness means? Raise your hand if it's not clear. Brilliant. Oh, one person. Effectiveness is basically I have to think of an example. How effective is the spice in the lunch I just had? I'm sweating, so yeah, it was effective. Yeah, so it's really the ultimate goal of something which is realized. So with teams, you could think about value being the ultimate goal. So if you want to find out if a team is effective, you measure how valuable it is, the things that they deliver. Okay? So 1 minute, starting now. Just think for yourself. Whatever you think about, we will use it in the next step. Okay, don't worry too much if you haven't got a really good idea. It will develop, because the next step we're going to take is I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and in that time you're going to find a partner, and I want you to discuss your ideas together. For 2 minutes, trying to figure out together, you talk about the ideas you had, have a bit of a conversation about it. Okay? I expect you all to self-organize, because we're agile people. Got some ideas? Got some ideas? Okay, so everybody's having a nice chat. Everybody is having a really nice chat. So then, oh, that's funny. This usually works in Agile conferences. Doesn't anybody know this? Is when you want everybody to quiet down and pay attention, you lift the arm and everybody lifts it up. Take it home with you. So I noticed that some of you already formed groups of 4. That's fine. The next step now is to form groups of 4. I saw some groups of 3. No problem. You can find another 3 or just make a final group around 4 people. And I want you to share your ideas. Try to create something collectively. I'm going to give you 4 minutes for that, more or less. And after that, I'm going to ask you to share some ideas. And then we can take it from there. Okay? Sorry. Oh, you're socializing. Very good, very good. I'll call you guys first. You guys are also ready? Cool. So I'm going to give you a few more seconds to finalize your conversations. Okay, guys, who wants to share? You guys were really, really fast, so you must have a really good answer.
So we had 3 categories. The first one was mission-related effectiveness, so whatever the team mission was, any metrics associated with that. The second category was operational effectiveness, so delivery, quality, predictability, throughput, lead time, what was that? Cost. My joke was like doing cloud stuff, so yeah, always pay a lot of money for inefficient stuff. And And the last category is team health things, so engagement, morale, whatever we measure there.
Yep. Does that sound familiar to you all? Yeah, this is the kind of metrics we use more often in Agile, right? Anybody else want to share?
Hi. So we also discussed about team happiness, and we also discussed about less rework. So at the end of the day, we are not redoing the same thing again and again if we optimally do it. And I would like to pass to other team members. Is it okay?
Oh, take it back. One more? Anybody brave enough? Yeah, over there. Yeah, you were also ready quite fast, eh?
So basically cross-functionality, that is, there are developers in the team, there are QA resources, so they should be all working together. My developers should know the testing part and testers should collaborate closely with the developers. Then there is ability to cope up with scope creeps, impediments, risks which happen very frequently within the sprint.
Yeah.
Then ability to incorporate feedback from stakeholders, from sprint reviews, retros, and basically then the overall health of the team, which is the story points delivered and the health reports to sprint health.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot. So yes, this is a method we use a lot in Agile, and I think one of the things that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, see, team is a set of individuals, right? So everybody, like a product owner or whatever. So the problem we see is engineers, they're not having business type of knowledge, thought process, right?
Yeah.
That's how you're going to create value for the end customer. So that amount of knowledge, whatever is required, it's not engineer's responsibility. Every role has a specific accountability and ownership, which has to come, right? That has to be measured, right? So that is a different thing. Even part of a team, right? There are siloed different teams, product team, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to the Agile team, that type of additional ownership, right? Of ensuring they understand the business. It's not building some feature factory and pushing out. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they are going to be more effective in the long run. Right? That's how they feel good. They are providing value, right, for themselves, inner satisfaction.
Yeah.
But not as an engineer, right?
Yeah. I like it that you got to give your answer, because it makes my job a little bit easier. Because that's the point I was trying to make, that basically we're trying to measure something which is really complicated. It's not even complicated, it's complex. Yeah, and we try to do that by measuring all kinds of things. I mean, my father is a farmer, consultant. He's here today, a big honor for me. And what he does, he looks at the plant, and he measures all the inputs, he measures the outputs, and therefore he's able to understand what the plant is doing. It's a complex system, but because it's a closed system, you can measure. With teams, it's a different story, because a team is not a closed system. Yeah, there's people arriving, there's people leaving. The environment of the teams change. It's a complex system. And I think I have the definition here. Complexity. This is the definition of complexity according to Wikipedia. So I'll let you read that for a moment. And the important words in this definition are these. Yeah, that's what the keynote speaker, I keep forgetting his name, he said this morning. It's an unpredictable world. Yeah, and people, you can't just manage people. You have to trust people. These are different ways of dealing with complexity. It means that these this need of measuring stuff, it's an approximation. To give you an example, if I'm driving my car, I've got a number of dials that I can keep an eye on. I even have the speed. But when I'm driving on the road, the speed is only a guideline. I'm paying attention to what the rest of the cars are doing. If I don't do that, I might have the perfect speed, but I'm not going to crash, guaranteed. So that's a little bit the problem with metrics in general. A lot of them are lacking. You know after the fact what's going on, you can make an interpretation, but time passes. So the interpretation you make based on those lagging metrics might not apply to the current situation. Yeah, so I'm painting a picture of the kind of complexity we have to deal with. And the result is this kind of situation. I was a PHP developer, and we used to have a lot of fun making fun of management. I am part of management now, leadership, so I understand the situation a lot better. Managers are doing their best, but they're also trying to deal with that complex world. So these kind of, situations is a part of a result of that complexity. So does anybody recognize this? Yeah, I worked at a company where we set up a dashboard with all kinds of metrics for my teams. And this was supposed to give us an idea of how well the teams were doing. And it helps. But whenever I look at this, the first thing I want to do is I want to go and talk to the team. Yeah, my dad, he measures all kinds of stuff, but he goes to the farm 3 times a week. Because only by looking at the plants does he really understand what's going on. You need the context. Yeah, the keynote speaker also talked about context. Context is everything. You can have all these metrics, but as long as you don't know the team, you don't understand the team, you can't make the interpretation. I read this wonderful book, recommended to everyone, Deep Work. It's about thinking. And this guy came to the same conclusion. Metrics are effective in a complicated system. It's basically our old-fashioned way of working. As soon as you start dealing with complexity, then you can get a kind of a metric black hole, where it's a bit like, how the hell are we going to measure stuff? So I have an idea how to measure that, which I want to share with you. It's a crazy idea. I've been playing around with it for a while. But before we go into it, I want to play a game with you guys. So I'm going to show you some pictures, and I want you to think of a scale from 1 to 5. 1 is, you look at the picture and you think this person is really sad. If you say 5, it's a person that's really happy. And then in between. So 3 would be someone like, meh, I'm not sure what's going on. Okay? You ready for this? I want you to shout it right out. Don't think about it, just whatever you feel. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it's easy, isn't it? 4, yeah. Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah. Yeah, you notice that if we take the average, it's quite accurate in the sense that everybody kind of agrees. How about this one? Yeah? I Googled all these pictures by saying extremely happy. So it's a test, and you're passing it. Most of you. It's a hard one, huh? How about this one? When I Googled this one, I asked Google, blank face. This is what we had during COVID. We were working remote, and you have this meeting, and as a Scrum Master, you're like, what the hell is going on? Guys, communicate! So you see how effective we are as human beings, and just, instinctively you know how somebody's feeling. So let's take it a step further. How about this one? Ooh, 4. Yeah, I'd say 5, but it's okay. And the last one? See, so it's a robot band. What are you guys going on about? It doesn't have any feelings. So the reason I show you this picture is because that instinct that we have to detect how people are feeling is so strong that we can even use it for a robot to make a movie. And this is the expression a chimpanzee has when he's scared. He shows his teeth. And orangutans, I studied ecology, and I spent 7 months in the forest with these animals. They're solitary animals, so they don't express. They always look like this. They have a terrible life. So flow is really our instinctive way of interacting with each other. It's part of our evolution. And you know the flow in Kanban, that's the flow we all talk about. It's the flow of value. That's not the flow I'm talking about. I'm convinced that when we have flow as human beings, we also have flow and value. But what I'm talking about is flow as defined by this guy, Mihaly, Csikszentmihalyi. He was a psychologist. He spent his whole life trying to figure out what makes people happy. And this is basically his definition of flow. And I don't know if you've ever had a team where you really felt like things were just so easy and it just went and you had fun with each other and you really delivered value and you didn't feel like going home. You were having so much fun with your teams. Now, that's that feeling of flow. When you play computer games until 6 o'clock in the morning, that's also flow. Not the best flow. It can also be negative, but you understand what I mean. So this is me as a PHP developer a long time ago when I had a little bit more hair. At least it wasn't gray. This was one of the best teams I ever worked with. And we were masters of flow. I didn't know what flow was yet at that time. But with this team, what's happening here is, I think he raised his hand, and immediately the whole team comes together. And we fixed the problem together. And we were really effective, and we were loud. I mean, I took this picture from, somebody took this picture from a doorway here. On the other side of the doorway was another team, and they were lobbying management to block the door because we made so much noise. So that's really that feeling of flow. And you're all familiar with intrinsic motivation? Daniel Pink is very famous. He talked about intrinsic motivation, and he said that teams are motivated, they have intrinsic motivation when they have a clear purpose, when they have mastery, and when they have autonomy. The funny thing is that he based this book partially on Mihaly's book. Yeah, so this idea about purpose, mastery, and autonomy was actually the conclusion of Mihaly. He discovered that people who have a clear purpose and know what they're doing and are free to do it, not only are they more effective, intrinsic motivation, but they're really, really happy with life. And that's a beautiful thing. So you're all familiar with this? For those who don't recognize it, this is lines of communication between people. It's the reason we always say that in a Scrum team, you should probably not have more than 7 people because you get too many communication lines, which is represented here. If you have 11 people, it gets out of control. But the funny thing is, if you look at chimpanzees, they manage to create stable groups of up to 50 individuals. How do they do it? That's a lot of communication going on. They use that instinct that we just proved. The instinct to understand how people are feeling, individuals are feeling. And that's the basis to form relationships. Yeah, and this is not something which is limited to the animal world. We do it too. Yeah, so this is in a stadium, 50,000 people, and they make a wave. How do they do that? How do they organize it? It just happens. That's flow. That's how powerful that is. The problem is that it's also very strange. How do you explain it? It's not a clear-cut metric like we're used to. It's a whole different concept. So how do you use this? So this is deep work. This is the ability to really focus and understand, make intuitive leaps. This is something that happens when you're in flow. His book, it's all about that. There is a neurologist in the Netherlands, and he has shown that as human beings, our brain, it starts degrading after we're 30. And you can't do anything about it. Yeah, this is a normal human being. Except if you enjoy flow in your life. Yeah, if you do sports, if you work together with other people, if you have fun with other people, if you achieve your goals with other people, then you can actually limit the decline. Yeah, and this guy, I was at a conference when he gave a keynote, and he said, the reason I am still active is because I do exercises, I play music, and I have a really engaging work, which I enjoy doing all my life. Yeah, so this is how important flow is. Research from CNN. It's about happiness of your teams. Two of the groups mentioned happiness as being a very important metric. So this is based on really extensive research. Productivity goes up when teams are happy. Yeah, so flow might be a way of measuring that. Summarizing. This is why flow is such an interesting concept. We really want it because it makes us more productive, makes our teams more productive. It's fundamental, it's not something we can fake. Yeah, we can detect it, it's evolutionary. We can measure it intuitively. And when you work with a group, it's multiplied. Yeah, that's why we in Agile, we work in teams. Because if you have two people working together, it's not 1 + 1, it's 1 + 1 is 3. Yeah, so that's really cool stuff. So how do we use flow to measure effectiveness? That's the challenge. I'm going to share one last image with you. This is the flow channel. It comes from Mihali's book. And what he found is people and teams, they have challenges and they have skills. And as long as the challenges and the skills are balanced, they stay in this flow channel. And they're happy. Yeah, as soon as you have a situation where they don't have enough skills, you end up in this area, and this is where you get anxiety. And as soon as they have too many skills, then they get bored. And we just showed, you can measure this intuitively. You can go into a room where your team is working, and you can detect whether they're in the flow channel or not. So that's going to be the next exercise. We're going to do the same game again. Take 1 minute to think for yourselves, how would you use flow to measure team effectiveness? Is that clear? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. 1 minute. Okay, I can hear the conversation starting. So yes, the next step, find a partner, have a conversation together. I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. Feel free to join. I'm just walking around. And that's 2 minutes, and I see that you've already basically graduated into the bigger groups. So I'm going to give you another 5 minutes. Think about the answer that you want to give. We'll do it just like before. I'll give you an opportunity to share your ideas in 5 minutes. Sneaky. Jesus. Oh, I got the. Sorry. Heart attack. Okay, so time's up. Time's up. Time for sharing. Round off your conversations. No rush, no rush. Testing, testing. Now I'm in stereo. So who wants to share? You guys want to share?
Hey. So I personally was a little bit confused how to use flow to measure team effectiveness. But we have some points to understand if the team is really performing well or not, like maybe the attrition rate, lack of motivation from the team members to invent, do something on their own,
Yeah.
not ready to self-learn, no innovation. So those were 2 points which we came up with.
Yeah.
But I was not sure if that's what.
No, I understand. I understand. I like it. It's like, for example, team happiness. We all learn to measure team happiness. What's your experience with measuring team happiness? Anyone? Yeah, have you tried it with your teams? And what was the result? Yeah, indeed. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I tried to measure team happiness with my teams too. And this is one of the things I ran into. I mean, a developer who was in a traffic jam in the morning, he would score his happiness lower. It's like, yeah. I even had a team, and just to make the team happiness measurement more effective, I told them to measure it every day at the daily. Yeah, and eventually they got bored. And I had even one developer, and he wrote a little program to randomly fill in the his happiness.
Humans have homeostasis as well. So you don't go up and stay up, you just come back down. And you have your set point. So yeah, found the same thing. If no large event has happened, everyone just goes back to, if they're like a normally sad person, they'll just come back normally sad. If they're normally happy, you almost can never change that. But if you do something big, we did this with like a larger org change, then I could pick it up. Because then you could say, hey, this bigger thing, you could see how effective that was. But otherwise, day-to-day stuff, everyone just floats right back in the middle.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and there's one exception. At least I've noticed that there is an exception in my experience, and you also hear a lot about it, purpose. If you give the team an inspiring purpose, even the unhappy guy can kind of liven up a bit. But like you say, they have a range. Maybe he becomes less unhappy than usual. Next, you guys?
Just to add to what the other group members were saying, so a happy team is where they really communicate well, they have each other's back, they're looking for challenging work, they're able to meet the deadlines, they're happy with the work that they are doing, they feel challenged, they feel motivated. So I think those are the things that I would probably classify as a happy team.
And the answer for the big question, did you guys come up with something interesting? How to use flow to measure team effectiveness?
So effectiveness, I think based on, like you said, there are multiple factors. One is how they're able to gel together as a team, the sense of accomplishment, and also how they deal with situations that are not really ideal. So the true character of the team comes out there. So I think that's one way where you can measure effectiveness. And of course, there are other parameters like how well they're doing with respect to converting all the requirements into increments and all of those technical things. But the non-tangible ones, like I mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you can use the flow to get that feeling. Oh, sorry. I keep taking your job. Anybody else?
So, for example, you are working on a Doctors Without Borders donation model, and if you are able to communicate to the team that because of the model that you built, XYZ number of donations were received and this impacted many lives, I think that acts as a motivator or a flow for them because it kind of tells them that their work has succeeded.
Yeah.
Despite this, raising food requests and doing it right. That's like measuring the impact of the work can add to the
Yeah.
Similar I want to add, right? The team, right? You got the opinion for everyone. Like in case you are going to have a debate, it's not like
Yeah,
senior
yeah,
people giving, right? That creates synergy, right? Okay, people open up and make
Yeah.
their own thoughts,
Yeah.
which helps.
It's the reason that the technique that we're using right now, it's called a liberating structure, and it's specifically designed to give everybody a voice. Yeah, because you see that in teams also sometimes, that there's one person who has all the solutions, a big mouth, and then it doesn't let the rest of the team speak. So you can use this technique with your teams too. I've even used it with big groups of people to do, for example, PI planning time of session. Really do it with the whole group. Anybody else? We have a couple of teams left. How about you guys? Oh yeah, you answered last time. You guys this time?
There are a couple of things that we talked about. One, the things that we having stability and having stability and on top of it, autonomy. That kind of helps them with the flow.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of key things that we looked at, and the base of it is building trust. And eventually, perception changes when people move around. So having stability kind of helps the flow. Invariably, people move between anxiety and boredom in the start, but what we felt was having stabler teams kind of builds that trust between being openness to come and say, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Last one. You guys in the corner?
I mean, we thought, effectiveness is basically how we can measure. We can try to understand like the way people are behaving, like how they are delivering the things, how they are planning. This I'm giving a small example. If you're going for a sprint planning, right? How effectively you're measuring all the requirements that you have, how you're kind of having the estimations, and over a time, if it is, if you see there is an improvement, right? It means people are able to understand. They are actually having a good discussion, interaction, and they're able to understand that as a team how they are able to perform. And you'll see in the next sprints when you go for sprint planning, right? Or let's say in the first sprint, how we are delivering. That you'll be able to understand exactly how my team is working. If there is something you are not able to improve things in the next sprint, or let's say not on the planning itself, retrospective as well. What kind of inputs that you are getting out of it. So that parameters you will know people are giving very with a openness, what challenges they have and how they want to kind of challenge those and as a team work on around it. So I think those things you'll be able to observe how your team is working when you're doing planning, when they're doing the execution, what kind of a feedbacks you are getting, and that will give a good measurement for you how happy your team is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's wow. Very good, guys. that's basically how I discovered the flow channel. I have a friend. He's called Maarten Dalmijn. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote a pretty famous book about sprint goals. He says you should always start with sprint goals. And I thought he had a very good point. So I started doing that with my teams. Yeah, and it makes sense because it's the purpose from the intrinsic motivation. And yeah, it worked. It was really, the moment you have an inspiring purpose, you can really get a team going. But I had situations where I tried to teach a team to work with a sprint goal, and I got the opposite effect, demotivated teams. And I struggled with that. Because like, what's going on? Inspiring people, that should be enough, shouldn't it? And then at a certain moment, I worked at a Dutch company. I worked with a team who didn't have a process. And my job as a Scrum Master was to teach them to use Scrum. So I spent, I think, 4 or 5 months trying to teach them and trying to coach them. And I was doing this, and I was doing that. I was doing all the right things, but it didn't work. I got really frustrated. And then I started paying attention. And I realized that this team, they were achieving their sprint goals. Yeah, sometimes they would come to me and say, Erik, we need another 3 days in the sprint to finish it. So me as a Scrum Master, oh, that's not good, but they managed to achieve the sprint goals. And they were having a lot of fun. They had daily stand-ups that lasted 3 hours, which for me as a Scrum Master was like, what am I going to do with this? But they were having fun and they were discussing the problems. And then I realized that's the way a team should be. Yeah, they don't need the process. I'm the one who needs the process. It's control. It's the bane of agility. Yeah, I thought I was a really good Scrum Master, and here was me discovering that I was a really bad Scrum Master. I was trying to force my team to adopt Scrum so that I could see what was going on. Yeah, and that's when I realized that I should have noticed that these people were having so much fun. And that's when I started reading about these books. And that's the way I use the flow channel. So, of course, as a Scrum Master, when I start with a new team, the first thing I do is I observe. And then I make a bit of a list. I guess we all do it. The daily Scrum is taking too long. They're not doing the refinement properly. I really want to start with sprint goals. That's the first step. But the next step is I pay attention to the flow. Yeah, so I just sit at the meetings and I look how they react, how they interact. And what that brings is the fact that, say, I want to measure, I want to start working on sprint goal. Sprint goal is a challenge, right? Another thing that I know is if this team is going to learn to use the sprint goal, I want them to stay in the flow channel, so the skills should be down here. And that's the trick. Because when I see the interactions they have in the daily Scrum, also during sprint planning, I can judge where their skills are. And what happens if the skills are over here? Anybody? Exactly, you're stuck in anxiety. So all the teams that I was trying to help to embrace a sprint goal, who couldn't handle it, I was scaring them to death. It was my own fault. And the opposite is also true. If you start, like the team I was trying to help that didn't need any help, their skills were all the way over here, and I was trying to do the sprint goal with them, so I was in the boredom area. Yeah, and that's the value of the flow channel. You can judge, like in this team, doesn't have enough skills to start working on the sprint goal. So my job as a Scrum Master is to reduce the challenge. Yeah, I can also increase the skills. Yeah, but the skills takes time, you have to learn it. So it's more effective to find a different challenge which they can handle. And in this case, it's behind the lectern, but it's the daily Scrum. So I start with the daily Scrum. I know it's not the most effective. I know it's not the biggest step that we can take, but I know it's a step that the team can handle. And that's the thing with the flow channel. Flow channel allows you to grow. So that means that by tackling this channel, I'm helping the team to flow up the flow channel. And there will come a moment when I reach the point where we can start talking about the sprint goal. So that's how I use it. And you can use it for the team, you can use it for an individual, you can use it for the whole organization. I even use it for myself. When I discovered this, I'm a very inquisitive person. I like to have lots of hobbies. I always have too many hobbies. But then I realized, oh, that's actually good for me. So now every 1 or 2 years, I try to, pick something outrageous to learn. Just simply because as a Scrum Master, this is so important for my teams that I also need to understand what it feels. So 2 or 3 years ago, I bought an electric drum kit. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I have no idea. So I started all the way down here. Yeah, and I had anxiety. And I recognized that of myself. And I pushed myself. I started, with one hand. And then one hand and a foot. Yeah, so I'm going up the flow channel. And I'm continuously looking for the balance. Yeah, if I'm feeling anxiety in myself, I know that the challenge is too big. So I can take a step back. You can also, learn to deal with that anxiety. The result is that you keep growing. Yeah, and I think that is the essence of what we as Scrum Masters, as managers, as leaders, that's what we do. And we want our teams to grow. So based on these experiences with the flow channel, I developed this matrix, because everybody loves matrices. They're really easy. Two axes. Who finds the problem? The Scrum Master or the developers. And who finds the solution? Scrum Master and the developers. And it's really easy. If the Scrum Master does both, I keep saying Scrum Master because I'm a Scrum Master, but it could be manager, product owner, whatever you like, leader. If you're doing both, you're in the boredom area. The team doesn't have anything to do. They can't grow. Yeah, so that's the place you want to stay away from. And that's really, really important. You see a lot of Scrum Masters that have the feeling that it's their responsibility to apply Scrum or Kanban or whatever. And they're continuously trying to push the team to do that. That's basically that. Because as a leader, you shouldn't be telling people to do it. You should be encouraging to do it for themselves. Up here, the developers, they find the problems, and the developers, they find the solutions. That's where you want to be. That's the flow channel. Yeah, because that's the best. I mean, any developer, you run into a problem and you solve it yourself, that's goosebumps. That's fantastic. That team that I mentioned before, the really cool team I worked with, we were a backend team. There was the 5 of us, and the first project we did, just to give you an idea, it didn't have a graphical user interface. Yeah, when we demoed to the client, we had to show the logs in the terminal. That's the kind of nerds we were. But the company was really impressed with us. And after a few months, they gave us a new project. They asked us to build a mobile app. Can you imagine? It's like, us? But we're the backenders. But as a team, we were so strong in the flow. It sounds a bit like Star Wars, in the Force. That we were like, yeah, sure. And then there was one guy who had worked with React in a project. So we put him in charge. And as a team, we didn't have the skills with mobile development, but as a team, we were extremely skillful. Yeah, and we basically embraced the project. We were self-confident, and we pulled it off within the deadline. Ooh. Yeah, and that's because we were in the flow. Yeah, that's really important. How important it is to have teams that are up there. And there's 2 places where, as a leader, that's where you have to act. And that is when the developers are not able to find the problem. The developers are struggling. They know that there's something wrong. But for some reason, maybe they don't have the skills, maybe they're too much in their work, they're not able to find what the problem is. That's the danger area, because that leads to frustration. Yeah, that's the anxiety part. Yeah, and as a leader, now you know that you can detect the flow of the team. You can detect the fact that they're unhappy with this problem. That's your trigger to act. Yeah, because then you give them a little extra push and keep them in the flow channel. And the same applies to this quadrant. When the team has a problem and they're struggling, but they're not able to find a solution. Yeah, as a Scrum Master, I want them to find it for themselves. So I'll let them struggle for a while. But I have to be very alert that it doesn't go too far, because then they get frustrated, they get demotivated. Yeah, and that's again the place where, as a leader, I need to act. That's it for today, guys. Are there any questions? Oh wait, I forgot one slide. Sorry. This one is actually really important. I'm a Scrum Master. This one is about management, because one of the things that I see in the Agile world is we talk a lot about theory. Yeah, so if I talk to a manager, yeah, motivation, intrinsic motivation, purpose, and you should do this and you should do that, and it's a complex system. A manager doesn't have all the information you have. So you put yourself in the position that you're constantly trying to convince management teams to do something. And that's really hard, because you're actually asking them to believe, have faith in you. Yeah, and this diagram represents that. So I had a colleague, he worked at a bank, and the CEO decided, I want my people to interact with each other, so from now on, Monday, office day. Step one. Oops. So my colleague was like, oh, that's not such a good idea, because it's going to affect self-organization. Yeah, because you're not letting them decide, you're not explaining, you're just telling them. Yeah, and this self-organization, that's important, because it's going to affect your intrinsic motivation. Yeah, and that is really important, because it's going to affect your team effectiveness. And yes, team effectiveness is also really important, because it's going to affect your productivity. And then you're going to lose profits. Now, most people, you lose them somewhere over there. And the next time you want to have this conversation, you can start over. Even worse, sometimes you have a manager and he likes one of them. Yeah, he forgets all the other ones. He just likes the one. Yeah, and that's his thing. He forgets the rest of the story, so it's terrible. Yeah, the advantage of talking about flow is you can skip all this. So my colleague, he showed the CEO the flow channel, and he explained how it worked. And then he asked the CEO, what do you think that your action does to the teams? And the CEO was like, oh, yeah, maybe that was not such a good idea. Yeah, because flow is something intuitive. Yeah, and that's the point about the metrics. Yeah, metrics, we try to measure all these things, and it's really, really complicated and hard. And I'm not saying you shouldn't measure. Measuring is still really important, because it gives you hints of what's going on. But it's not the only way, it's not the answer. You have to trust in yourself. You have to trust in the fact that it's about people. Yeah, and we have evolved to detect how people are feeling. That's the essence of my message. Now, I hope you can take this with you to your work. And I know it's hard. This is the way it started for me. You have to figure it out for yourself. But like I do with my drumming, start with yourself. Because you can detect how you feel yourself. Really good example. I found out that Monday mornings, I'm stressed. And I'm stressed because the weekend, and I'm not sure what I was doing the week before, so I start doing all kinds of different things, and I get more stressed, and I work even harder, and blah, blah, blah. I learned to detect that. And as soon as I get that feeling, I drop everything, and I go for a walk. And by the time I get back, I've taken the time to think about what I was doing and what I want to pick up, and I've prioritized it, and then I get a running start. Yeah, so try that for yourselves. Once you can detect it in yourself and you feel confident, start paying attention to your team. Yeah, just like the game we played with all the faces, start paying attention. Start triggering them a bit. Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is just act like a clown. Yeah, make jokes. And then if your team laughs and really enjoys the fun, that's a good indication that they're high in the flow. If you make jokes and people don't react and everybody's a bit like this, you know they're in anxiety or in boredom. Yeah, and that's something you can test very easily. thinking in terms of flow. That's the hard one, because flow is a very abstract concept. Yeah, it's intuition, and one thing that we all get taught, intuition, you shouldn't trust it. It's dangerous. It's a feeling. No, we want to measure things. Yeah, keep measuring things, but feel it. Start trying to make the connections and test them with the results of your teams. Yeah, so you don't have to take the blind leap. Just feel it, and then after a while, the lagging metrics will tell you if you were right or not. And finally, and this is really important, it's the hard bit, flow is complicated. Everything is complicated. I keep saying complicated, but I mean complex. So it's somebody mentioned the fact that you can have, it was you, you can have one team member who's always unhappy. That's part of the equation. You have to include that in the equation of your whole team. You can have, for example, a team who is really good at retrospectives, and the flow is really high. But when they get into refinement, the flow is really low. Yeah, so all these complexities, you have to start learning to deal with that. And that's part also of the game. That flow channel, you can widen it. Yeah, so if you look at the flow channel, every diagram I used, it's got the same width. But the team I was working with, the one where we got the mobile app, the reason we could deal with that is because our flow channel was like this. Yeah, and that's really cool too. That's what the team, as a Scrum Master, one of the most important things I do is I just make jokes. And I say stupid things. Because I want my teams to feel happy and comfortable. Yeah, I want them to tell me that I'm an idiot. Because that gives them confidence. Yeah, and it's widening the flow channel. And it's called resilience. Yeah, it's all related to flow. My voice is almost gone. So thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we have time for questions. While people think about the questions, this is me. I work for Scrum Facilitators for another 5 days. I write a lot of articles. I've written articles about this whole flow thing, also about how to bring it into practice. You can find them on my Substack. And please connect with me on LinkedIn.
I do have a question here. I'm Suma. What do you do for the impulsive leaders or managers who wants to see the change very next day? It's like they're not giving that time. As you say, it's a gradual process. You cannot see anything as it is already a complex and complicated entity working with teams, right?
Yeah.
So the result-oriented managers or leaders, and they're so impulsive to see the results, and they're not ready to wait for long.
Yeah.
What do you say?
That's a really good question. I think one of the most stupid things we do with Agile is we never talk about the journey. We only talk about the destination. Scrum is a destination. Safe is a destination. And that's where the impulsive manager is, where it's like, yeah, that's why Agile transitions fail, because they want results like this. The flow channel, you can use it to explain that to those impulsive leaders. You can explain how that, by looking at the flow channel, you can see the journey. You can make it very clear for the impulsive leaders. Man, we're down here. We're trying to get up there, but it's not going to happen in a day. And we can make a compromise. Yeah, you're not going to get this today, but we can talk about the steps we're taking. Yeah, and then you involve the impulsive manager in the journey. And that is effective, because then it becomes an ally. And I've done this with managers myself. Thanks, good question. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the flow channel helps it because it makes it very clear, very visual. It's like with all the blocks, that kind of conversation is really hard. Sorry?
Coach, whoever that leader is being looked at, you've got to take a different approach probably to kind of align these type of involve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In the journey.
Yeah. And you have to realize that the manager, they also have a flow channel. Yeah, so I'm going to get the flow channel back because we keep talking about it. So this applies to management too. Yeah, a manager, you can have a manager who has a lot of pressure to get results. But his teams, they're not able to get the results yet. So what you get is teams who have low skills, and his challenges are high. And then you get the anxiety. Yeah, and that makes it visual for the manager. He understands where those feelings come from and makes the conversation a lot easier. Yeah, because it's not about the organization anymore. It's not about the teams. It's about him. It's about what he needs. Does that answer your question? A little bit.
Requirements or the pain points. If you are able to tap it, you are there.
Yeah.
You win. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah. Next question.
Any questions?
Nobody? I like questions. Guys, do you have a question? Yeah. Oh.
Any tips and tricks to handle a highly demotivated resource?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Any tips and tricks to handle a highly demotivated resource?
Yes. First of all, be aware that you're starting really low. Second, safety. Yeah, what I said before. If a highly demotivated team, I act like a fool. Just to inspire people. Just to show them there is space. And another thing that also works extremely well, start getting rid of stuff. Yeah, mostly teams get demotivated because they have this whole Scrum that they have to do. Yeah, and they're not thinking about what they need. They're trying to please the managers. They're trying to do all these complicated things. And as soon as you start taking things away, you reduce the challenges. And you reach a point where you can motivate a team. Yeah, I've done it myself. When I start with a new team nowadays, I teach them visualization, so visualizing the workflow, that's from Kanban. I teach them Little's Law, that's work in progress, the impact that has on your productivity, and I teach them feedback loops. And that's it. Yeah, because with that information, a team will intuitively learn to do Kanban and Scrum at the same time, because Scrum is basically just feedback loops. Yeah, so get rid of all the baggage, get rid of all the details, start really small. I've done it with a variety of teams, and you will be surprised. Within a few months, they will come up to you and say like, yeah, we need an extra meeting to talk about the work we have to do. Yeah, sure, let's organize that meeting. Oh, and by the way, it's called the refinement. And see the difference there? It's not me as a Scrum Master telling them to do the refinement. It's them discovering why it's valuable. I hope that helps. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, guys. This was a lot of fun. I hope you have a really enjoyable rest of the conference. And I'm here until Thursday. If you want to have a chat with me, I'll be in the halls.
Thank you. Thanks, Erik.